with the public, and it's created a lot of excitement in the store and in the community.
So all you husbands out there struggling over holiday gift ideas for your wife, come on out and take a look. You could always keep the car for yourself. Rebecca Cook, News Center 12.
Its existence has never been hidden. It was made known to the family. The attorney for the family,
Back in February when...
the attorney for the family participated in the taping and was offered a copy of it. I don't know why it was never requested before.
The tape provides an emotional account of the last hours of Rosalind Bradford's life through the eyes of her fellow inmates.
I walked to the hall, and that's the last time I said, "Are you okay?" She said, "No, I'm going to go to the hospital." And that's the last time I saw Rosalind.
Someone should have came right then. And she would have been here with us right now if something had been done.
Since Bradford's death last January, here at the Silverdale Workhouse, details have been sketchy, but officials with the Human Rights Commission hope these tapes can shed a little more light on the incident. Since her death, there have been cries from the black community for an investigation, and so the Human Rights Commission formed a panel to look into the incident. But some of the members of the county commission told the Human Rights panel they didn't want the city involved in a county incident, and it looked like they might not turn all of their file over to the Human Rights Commission. But today's release of the tape looks like good news for the panel's investigation.
Well, we're really very grateful to the county commission, because had they not mentioned that there were these tapes or that this tape existed, we never would have known to ask for it. So we're really appreciative of the really positive help they have been, the cooperation they've given. And had it not been mentioned, well, they never asked us for a tape. We wouldn't have known to ask.
Dealing with a physical disability is hard enough without having to explain your condition to people who don't understand how you feel. Berna Lee Crosby makes it her job to help disabled people deal with their obstacle, and she has an advantage. She doesn't have to deal with the argument of, "You don't know what it's like." Berna has just been recognized by the Pilot Club of Chattanooga as Handicapped Professional Woman of the Year.
I've always been very determined that my disability would not be the main thing in my life. I mean, I would do whatever I wanted to do within my capabilities. And I've pretty well done that. And I'm very pleased with where I am. And I just hope that by helping other disabled people, that I can help them maybe reach some of the goals that they set for themselves, too.
It's not surprising that Berna would receive this honor. She hasn't let muscular dystrophy stop her from contributing to the community. In fact, she works here at Track and Trail as a full-time counselor. But she still finds time to speak to schools, churches, and civic organizations on living and dealing with a handicap. She's also found time to write an autobiography titled God, Help Me Face Tomorrow. It's currently being considered for publication.
Both my parents and my immediate family have always been the type that never said, "No, you know, don't do that," or "You can't do that." Can't was never a word in my vocabulary as I was growing up even. It's always, "Well, if you want to try, go ahead," you know. If I couldn't do it, well, then it wasn't because I didn't try.
And Berna Crosby says she's not through yet. Although now she's a quadriplegic with only limited use of her arms, she says she still has a lot to give to her husband Jerry, 14-year-old son JJ, and community. Rebecca Cook, News Center 12.
That did not used to be there.
Each of the nurses has their own opinion on what the shortage is caused by, but they all seem to agree on the solution. Better pay and more respect is needed to attract more people to the profession and keep them there. Rebecca Cook, News Center 12. Of their audiences through their show of strength. So not only will the Power Team show their audience an enormous amount of physical strength, they'll also give you a spiritual lift. Rebecca Cook, News Center 12.
Christmas time's coming, Christmas time's coming, Christmas time's coming, gotta know it won't be long.
For most of us, a Christmas tree and a wreath on the door is enough to put us in the Christmas spirit, but for others, it takes a lot more. In fact, an entire neighborhood in Fort Oglethorpe decked out their houses with thousands of lights, a Christmas tradition in their community for over a decade. What made you ever decide to put this much of a Christmas display up at your house?
I enjoy it, and I like for people to see it. and I think they enjoy it too.
Sightseers come from miles around, and the show is well worth the wait in line.
I just had some people leave that came up from Bridgeport and Stevenson, Alabama.
Just to see the lights?
See the lights and came in and visited a while.
Now, you'd think a display of lights like this would really run up the December electric bill.
Power's not that much. About the only big power would be like the tree, the lights on the tree. Those are the big ones.
Do you have any Scrooges out here who say that they don't like the lights?
No, not the lights, but the traffic. They could do without that. But everybody likes to decorate, and I guess you can say it is a little bit competitive, but everybody's got just a little bit more, and some's got a lot, some's got a little.
But they've all got the Christmas spirit. Rebecca Cook, News Center 12. Flora Strickland hopes her prayers have finally been answered. Her family has been on a waiting list for public housing for 4 years. They've been living in this 3-room duplex, struggling to stay warm by stuffing newspapers around the doors and leaving the oven open. But this week, the house was condemned, which is good news for the Stricklands because now their names will be moved to the top of the housing waiting list.
I'm trying to get a house, you know, better house than this right here.
The Stricklands have until Christmas Day to find a new place to live. And if the Chattanooga Housing Authority is unable to find them a new home, the family says they don't know where they'll go. The Chattanooga Housing Authority has nearly 300 vacant apartments, so why are there almost 450 people on the waiting list?
And they had plenty out in Spencer McCauley homes. I ride around, there's just a lot of them boarded up out in Emma Wheeler homes, Boone Heights, Paul's homes. Just about everywhere you ride, you see them boarded up. They said they're not ready for people to live. I guess they have to fix them up.
We found several public housing units boarded up in the Spencer McCauley neighborhood and on Gurley Street. How long have you lived here, Anna?
4 years.
Now, have a lot of the apartments been closed up since you've been here?
Oh, yes, they were closed when I came in. They're still closed.
We asked CHA officials why there were so many empty apartments. Director Bill Cooper said in Mrs. Strickland's case, she refused offered housing on August 7th of last year. But CHA has received a reprimand from federal officials because of their high vacancy rate, an issue they're expected to discuss at their board meeting tomorrow. Rebecca Cook, News Center 12. Cast members. These scenes require a lot of time and hard work, but church members say it's worth it to bring the true meaning of Christmas to life for everyone to see. Rebecca Cook, News Center 12. And while the house was extensively damaged, there is good news. No one was home at the time the blaze broke out, and we're told none of the firefighters' injuries were serious. Rebecca Cook, News Center 12.
News to follow in years later.
These commercials can have a negative influence as well. In fact, this commercial, which was an ad for President Johnson's bid to retain the presidency in 1964, was pulled off the air after being shown only once because there were so many complaints against it. And the chance for
I'll pick it back up.
Law enforcement officials are taking every precaution as they check all cars entering and leaving the area where the car was abandoned. Now, tonight, search efforts are being directed toward alleged sightings phoned in by local residents.
We're keeping an eye on. Want it for it. That North Georgia appeal.
You come out to the bid for bachelors, you've really got to have a lot of cash on hand. Some of these guys are going for well over $500, but I hear they do take all major credit cards. And of course, it's all for... type, you can even have your picture made with one of these cats. All of the proceeds go to help protect these beautiful felines for the future. Rebecca Cook, News Center 12.
A white sport coat and a pink carnation
Judy Crawford might be surprised by what it has to offer. Imagine a taste of New York's Broadway right here in Chattanooga. Well, this time next year, these steps of the Tivoli could be crowded with people waiting in line to see such hits as A Chorus Line or 42nd Street.
Start spreading the news. I'm leaving today.
So you're just trying to take a nice, leisurely afternoon stroll. But if you're in the area near Erlanger Medical Center, watch out. A mother mockingbird has set up house in one of the nearby trees, and she intends to protect her family. Now, most of the passerbys have no idea what's in store for them if they get too close to the bird's nest. But other regulars know to look out.
I was walking down this street, and next thing I knew, I heard something like "Arr!" and felt something that hit my head. And after that, I looked up and I saw the bird flying away. So I told the next guy that bird just attacked me, and everybody started laughing.
People just walking up and down the sidewalk, they get attacked ferociously by the birds. They peck them in the head, they grab their hair by their little feet, and it's hilarious.
Well, I thought this whole thing was pretty ridiculous. I mean, really, how much damage can one little bird cause? So I thought I'd just come on over here and say, okay, so maybe I won't get so close next time. Anyway, this mockingbird doesn't really mean any harm. As a matter of fact, she hasn't hurt anyone, not even our cameraman. She's just being a protective mother. Rebecca Cook, News Center 12. After 4 long days of combing through the woods, volunteers were ready to give up their search for Versa Decker. They had already decided they would call off their search at 3 o'clock, when at 12:35, one of her dogs was spotted.
He took off running away. I saw her sitting there, and it's just, it's unreal.
I'm hungry. I know I need food in my stomach.
I'll tell you what we're going to do for you, okay? I don't have any food for you right now, but we're going to ask you to do one thing for us, okay? You've been in here for 4 days.
She agreed to go into the hospital.
And we're going to have an ambulance waiting for you when we want you.
I think there's no way to describe it. I was frantic. After it started getting dark, I started shaking. I got nauseous. I put my head over between my knees and I said, you're a grown woman and you got your stuff into this. You gotta live to find your way out or till somebody finds you.
And after an extensive search, the 150 volunteers did find her, and there was quite a celebration as she returned.
That was a heavenly feeling. I felt that God had answered my prayers.
Oh, my God.
I just got lost.
How many times you made that trip?
Hundreds.
Versa was most appreciative of all the volunteers who had helped to rescue her.
God bless every one of you.
Past Monday night at about 11 p.m., the victim, Mrs. Montgomery, was approached. A lady came and knocked on her door, stated she wanted to use the phone.
76-year-old Dorothy Montgomery told police that the woman was about 17 years of age with shoulder-length blonde hair. She said she had car trouble and wanted to know if she could use the phone.
She let her in, used the phone. She went back out. About 5 minutes later, she returned, stated she wanted to use the phone again, and as soon as she got in, she asked her for a drink of water, and when the victim went to get a drink of water, when she returned, she was suddenly grabbed from behind by a male, and when he came around, he struck her in the nose.
After the male suspect had beaten her, he forced her into this closet, shut the door, and pushed this heavy chest in front of it. It took the victim nearly 45 minutes to get out. Mrs. Montgomery suffered only minor injuries as a result of the attack, but the suspects did ransack her entire house and made off with some of her cash and her jewelry, including her wedding rings. At first, police regarded this incident as routine, but since have discovered another similar attack.
I understand there was an occurrence May the 5th that fits this almost exactly in Chattanooga, I believe down on 5th Avenue, at this time, we think it just about has to be the same couple who is doing it.
This time, the couple struck at 75-year-old Mrs. T.L. Chastain's home on 5th Avenue. Again, an 18-year-old girl with shoulder-length blonde hair knocked at the door.
She said her car was broke down over here, and she wanted to call somebody to get it, I reckon. And she asked me if I could use my telephone, and she looked all right, you know. And I told her, yeah, and I showed her where it was at.
After using the phone, the woman left, only to return 5 minutes later, asking to use the phone again. Mrs. Chastain was then attacked from behind by an unknown man who took all of her money and locked her in a closet. That's where she was found a day later by a 12-year-old neighbor. Around drowning that occurs while boating. State law requires every passenger in a boat wear a personal flotation device. Although you may know how to swim, you could be knocked unconscious if the boat strikes an object and you're thrown into the water. In fact, more than half the children were allowed to remain in the classroom. The Tennessee State Board of Education wants to avoid a situation like this here in our state, so they've challenged each local school board to develop their own policy to address the AIDS issue. Local over, even at low speeds. According to Consumers Union, federal statistics show the Samurai has been involved in 44 rollover accidents, resulting in 16 fatalities and 53 injuries. But Suzuki argues their four-wheel drive Samurai is safe. In fact, the controversy hasn't affected sales here in Chattanooga.
The people that are coming...
Safe and good time at Riverbend. News Center 12 reporter Rebecca Cook joins us now to tell us what's going on this year. Rebecca?
Thanks, Sarah. It's hard to believe officials expect nearly 100,000 people to crowd the riverbank for this year's festival. And when they arrive, they'll have plenty to choose from. This year's Riverbend offers 10 days filled with food and entertainment for the entire family. Impossible to list all of Riverbend's events, but here's a sample. Things kick off. Imogene Griffith has been waiting 3 days for any news at all of her son Kenneth. He and two other men, Richard Mason and Earl Smock, have been missing since they left to go three-wheeling on Saturday. The family has been trying desperately to remain hopeful that the men were simply missing, but their spirits were dealt a harsh blow on Sunday when the men's vehicles were found covered in blood at the foot of a bluff.
The first thing that entered my mind that they had killed him.
And officials with the Hamilton County Sheriff's Department say all of the evidence seems to indicate the men were shot. One of the theories being investigated by the police is that the men left Richard Mason's home that Saturday night around 6 p.m., traveling down the road to a trail that cuts through nearby woods. Police believe the men were attacked nearly 3 miles into the woods. There are many theories as to what happened next. Those who have seen the evidence at the scene say it appears one of the men was attacked on his vehicle just off the trail. One of the other men apparently tried to drive off and was shot a few yards away. And the third man appears to have gotten off of his vehicle and attempted to run the other way into the woods and was hit there. Then the three-wheelers and the men were moved from the scene. They believe the vehicles were thrown off Roberts Mill Road, nearly 5 miles away. They were found there at the foot of a bluff. Today, police brought in a cadaver dog that specializes in locating bodies, but nothing has been found yet. In the meantime, family members try to comfort each other.
He loves us so much that wherever he's at, I know he's fighting as hard to get back to us as we're fighting to get him back.
Now, there was a little bit of encouraging news this morning.
My wife had walked out there today, and she said she'd smelled a sin out there. And I was sort of suspicious that that might be what it was. And without getting into any of the crime scene, I went around to the edge, tried to verify the fact it was bodies. I got down there pretty close, and I could see that there was 3 bodies piled together, so it was obvious, you know, it was these people that the massive search was out for.
Authorities tell us whoever attacked 49-year-old Richard Mason, his son-in-law 22-year-old Kenneth Griffith, and 23-year-old Earl Smock went to a great deal of trouble to dump their blood-spattered three-wheelers and bodies miles away from each other and the site where they were allegedly murdered. Authorities believe whoever shot the men loaded them up into some sort of four-wheel drive vehicle, then took them by back roads from Signal Mountain here to Suck Creek Mountain, where they threw the bodies off the side of this hill, hoping to conceal them among the garbage. Area residents tell us this site is somewhat of a dump and that people often drive by and throw their trash out along the side of the road. Sheriff's Department officials were gathering evidence here in an effort to lock down their case. Authorities tell us they're investigating several possible motives for the triple murder. The evidence suggests the men may have been surprised by the attack. 2 of them were apparently shot in the back, the other in the side of the neck. There's speculation the men stumbled upon a marijuana patch. Narcotics officials have been on the scene all week and even brought in a helicopter today.
The trees over the side of that road pretty good, and I may not be able to see it.
That's 10-4. Where we were at down there about a mile back in the woods, it was real thick.
There's also a theory that the men were involved in some sort of property or trespassing dispute. In fact, other people say they've been threatened by property owners in the area for trespassing.
He told us, we were up there, and he got out of the truck and told us, you know, that he didn't want anybody on his land, didn't want them trashing it up. Well, I've heard he's pulled guns on people, you know, so I don't know. He didn't pull one on us, and we didn't give him a chance to, you know, do nothing, so we left, and I haven't been back up here since.
Rebecca Cook, News Center 12. A familiar sight returned to the roadways this morning. Students made their way to schoolhouses across the county earlier today. Some welcomed this first day of school eagerly, while others approached the situation a little more cautiously. But for the most part, the days of tears at the first-grade classroom doorway are gone. Now most children are used to the school scene by 6 years of age, after a couple of years of daycare and kindergarten. And most of the first graders we talked to were enthusiastic. What do you think about going to school today?
I thought it was great.
Were you excited about coming to the classroom?
Yeah.
Why were you so excited?
Because I never have been to first grade yet.
And most of Jamie's classmates felt the same way. Some of them even had some plans for their first school year. What are you going to be doing here this year?
Make more friends and stuff.
Is that one of the good things about going to school?
Yep.
What do you think about going to school today?
I'm glad.
Why are you glad?
Because I like school.
What do you like about it?
You can read.
And there were others who were just enjoying the fringe benefits of being a student. Did you get some new shoes for school this year?
Yes.
Tell me about your shoes.
They're white and black with white strings.
Well, what do you think is the best thing about going to school?
Because it's fun.
What's fun about it?
When you go to lunch.
Rebecca Cook, News Center 12. It all began when a group of Battlewood apartment tenants sent their resident manager a letter complaining about crime in their complex. They felt they were not receiving adequate protection from the apartment management or the Fort Oglethorpe Police Department. So they called a tenant meeting to organize a neighborhood watch.
The best police department you can have is within your own neighborhood.
Barbara Holder was one of the tenants behind the organization of the Neighborhood Watch. She said all she ever wanted to do was protect herself and her family.
I'm worried about what's in my door, what's spilling the gas out of these cars and anything else they can get their hands on. Sitting in these woods and sitting behind these apartments and sitting right out in front of these apartments, smoking pot, and they don't care if you see them. They will tell you there's nothing you can do about it.
But Barbara decided she would do something about it, and she and her neighbors said they felt better after they organized their watch. But just 3 days later, she was called to the office, and the apartment manager gave her a warning.
He says, you do have 14 days to cut out this mess that you have going before you cause a riot. I told him, we're not here for a riot. We're tired of all the garbage in our doorways. I informed him that I'll take my letter and go on out. He says, don't forget, 14 days. Stop it or get out.
I contacted the man Barbara said she spoke with, the property manager, Johnson Dodd of Commerce Realty. He said he knew nothing about the letter, and he told me the whole thing was ridiculous and he had nothing to say to me. I called the resident manager and got the same response. And when we arrived, the apartment office was closed. We tried to talk to her on camera. She refused to come outside. Alan Frederick was born and raised in Soddy Daisy. His friends say he was well known and liked among those in the community.
He was a real good friend. He was quiet, never messed with anybody, never caused any trouble. He liked to shoot pool. We'd see him around. He was friendly.
What did most of your friends think when this happened?
It was a shock to everybody.
Alan was fatally shot Sunday morning around 3 a.m. at the home of 55-year-old Glenn Robert Coleman. Coleman told police he shot Alan because he startled him by jumping out of a closet. Tim Patterson went with Alan to Coleman's house that night. He claims they were invited by Coleman's granddaughter.
The girl told us to come over. She told us to climb through the window. And she said if anybody come, go over by the closet. And her grandma come in first, and she left, and her grandpa come in and went back out and come in, pointed the gun at Alan and shot him.
What did you do?
I jumped in the closet.
Did you stay hidden until the police came?
Yes.
Did Alan ask him not to shoot or anything?
Yeah, he said no, don't.
Alice Brown with the Soddy Daisy Police Department explains the law concerning intruders.
The homeowner must feel like that his life is being threatened before he can legally take any action against the intruder.
Did you threaten Mr. Coleman in any way?
No, we stayed in the closet.
It will be up to a court to decide whether Alan Frederick's death was justified. In the meantime, the family waits to pay their last respects. Rebecca Cook, News Center 12. Some people say the only difference between adoption and having a child biologically is the way the child joins the family. Ray is one little Chattanooga boy ready to become a permanent part of someone's family.
Ray is a very impressionable little boy. He loves to have fun. He likes to play rough. He likes school, and he's one of those kids that likes to work in school, not just recess.
Tell him what your name is.
Ray.
And how old are you?
6.
And you're a good boy, right? Ray was a little shy on camera, but he did tell us about some of the things he likes to do.
Go swimming and play. And go someplace more.
While Ray eagerly awaits a new family, Susan Ernest is just one of thousands of Americans waiting to add to hers.
We just love children, and there's so many that needs homes that we're just trying to find some for us.
Susan and her husband were among dozens of prospective parents who came out to the adoption fair to talk to counselors.
It is a special feeling. We have so many children that grow up in foster care and never know what it's like to have a permanent family. So when you can find a child and match him with that forever home, it makes you feel so good because you know that child won't be one of those that grew up in the system.
There are hundreds of children in the tri-state area